Welcome everyone to the Polarian series of webinars. Just before we commence, I would like to take a minute and share with you a bit about our company, Polarian Software. Polarian is the creator of the world's fastest enterprise web-based ALM solution. The success of Polarian Software is best described by the hundreds of thousands of companies and over 1 million users who rely daily on Polarian RM, QA, and application lifecycle solutions. Polarian is a thriving international company with offices across Europe, North America, and with a wide ecosystem of partners worldwide. Polarian's ALM solution provides guaranteed traceability, forensic-level links, and accountability. It's as easy as Microsoft Office with no limitations, and it supports any type of process or methodology for organizations of any size in any industry. We are excited to have two highly regarded industry experts on ALM and PLM. First, we have Michael Azoff from Ovrum Consulting. Ovrum is one of the largest global analyst and consulting firms. Michael has been working as an IT industry analyst since 2003, bringing over 20 years of experience in pure and applied research and consulting in the IT industry. At Ovrum, he leads the software development and lifecycle management research, and his current focus is on agile and lean practices in software development, including enterprise agile transformation initiatives, DevOps, cloud-related SDLM, application performance management, and enterprise IT mobile development. He is currently working on the Ovrum Analyst Insight Report on ALM and PLM integration. Secondly, we are pleased to have Stefano Rizzo, Polarian's SVP of Strategy and Business Development, whose career includes lecturing as a university professor, pre-sales engineer, the VP of R&D, and CEO of two software development organizations. Stefano is a sought-after speaker on the ALM conference circuit and is most recognized for his talks on the Palm Way, a phrase he has coined and will share more with you today.
So welcome. I'm going to talk about ALM PLM integration. Just to put it in into context and the role of software in engineered product, I will talk about some aspects of ALM and PLM and then hone in on the benefits and why we're talking about integrating these solution sets. Then I'll touch on trends in ALM and PLM and do a roundup summary and future statement. Just to clarify a few points, application lifecycle management, if you come from the PLM world, that may be a new term, ALM. Its origins are in enterprise IT. We are going to use the ALM term because it's convenient. There is a lot of different terms used in the PLM world for what we call ALM. So it's an evolving area, but I think for clarity, we will continue to use the term ALM, certainly for this webinar. So software, embedded software and engineered products. This is really a major change that's taking place in manufacturing. We have a situation where engineers can build the same functionality. They can either build it mechanically, electronically, or in software. And they're increasingly choosing software to build those functionalities. And this is also leading to great new innovation in the product. So we'll touch on those aspects, but I think what I want you to bear in mind is that the value add in products today is around the embedded software that is providing that value add. So just some examples, looking at the recent Consumer Electronics Show, just headline BMW, their latest models have millions of lines of code, more so than some aircraft. Incredible innovation, and I'm sure you've all heard of auto-driven vehicles and people speculating that we're going to be seeing those on the road one day. So some tremendous developments happening there. And another example there, Google joins GM, Honda, Audi for Android-powered cars. So software introducing a lot of innovation. So what is the software advantage? It introduces speed to development, speed to market. It's cheaper. You're less reliant on parts, expensive parts. If you've got a good process, a good team, you can build software products a lot more cheaply and quickly. And if something goes wrong in the field, you have to go, if you've got a car, something needs changing, you have to take it to the garage. With software, you can envisage smart repairs over the internet, Internet of Things. This is the future, and this is what manufacturers are working towards, making products connected, making it easier to service parts in the field. And as I mentioned, the innovation ideas is opening up a lot of ideas in how to improve products. So it's a very, very exciting area. So looking at the world of PLM, it originated mostly around that sort of pink square in the middle there, around assets to do with CAD, 3D drawings, that sort of thing, and the bill of materials, which sometimes they were managed by ERP systems. And it's evolved beyond those origins with requirements management, project management, all those good things that one needs to manage the life cycle. It also covers the service side, MRO, the maintenance, repair, and operations. And the new element is the embedded software, the ALM part. And this is really where the PLM world is just now beginning to embrace the need for that and recognizing the need to manage the embedded software in a mature way. And this is what we'll touch on in this presentation. So we mentioned the benefits with software, but there are also risks associated with it. If you've got a mechanical object, you can hit it with a hammer, and you can hear whether it sounds good or whether there's a fracture in the product, in the sheet metal or whatever. You can't do that with software. It's intangible, and you need good tools to understand what is in the software and whether it's doing what you want it to do, and that there are no defects in it. So you need to, and in order to achieve that, you need to properly manage how you do the development. This is where ALM comes in. You need that mature approach. And this for the PLM world, this is a new, how to manage software is a new experience, and they're only now beginning to gain that understanding of the need to have a mature approach, and recognizing that software is the core value add for many engineered products. They need to really grapple with these risks, because if they don't, they're just not going to enjoy the benefits of having more software in products. So what is this maturity? The ALM tools, the term ALM, very much associated with the product. Overall, at Open, we talk about the software lifecycle management, and we segmented, as we see in this diagram. Certainly in the enterprise IT world, we talk about IT business alignment. That alignment is very much about what the business wants, and that equally applies to engineering requirements. And managing those requirements through requirements. So in yellow you can see those acronyms for requirements definition, requirements management. You've got project portfolio management and project management. So those are the tools that help you communicate what it is that you want and manage that. Software assurance around QA and test management, ensuring that the products are secure, and the non-functional requirements are met through application performance management. And so combining all of that under a software assurance approach. Enterprise agility, very much around the processes of how we build, whether we're using lean or agile or maybe still using waterfall out there, or stage gate processes, or hybrids. So again, using the right project management tools to manage those processes. The delivery management and the term DevOps, that might be again new to those of you who are coming from a PLM background, but it's very much about bridging the development and operations, and in the context of the product world, it's very much relevant. You've got that continuous delivery, being able to make a change to software and see that delivered into production and fed back to developers, so with information of how it performs. So all of that around delivery management and release management. And then we've got product innovation, and this is really the topic here about integrating the ALM and the PLM tools. So we have PLM solutions. They integrate all of those different aspects that we saw earlier in that chart, and that gives you visibility and traceability across the life cycle. PLM solutions are interesting in that you can have a solution that's used by anything like a pizza business to an aerospace manufacturer. Each of them use the same solution, but obviously in different ways, and this is where customization comes in, and it occurs at two levels. You can have these solutions are highly configurable in XML files. You can have hundreds and thousands of different settings to customize the behavior. But if you want to go deeper and if you want to completely differentiate yourself from your competitors, then you may go the next step in customization, which is actually to build extensible modules. But of course, that touches on the question of upgrades, and then you have to upgrade your customization. So there's all sort of issues around how you manage all of those different aspects. And I would say that when we look at the life cycle, we've got design, we've got manufacturing, and then we've got the time in the field, the live production. The PLM solutions are more heavily focused on design, then less so on the manufacturing, and then even less so on the MRO. And this is something that the vendors in the PLM space are looking at improving and seeing the opportunity for improving that. So if we look at the business benefits of ALM PLM integration, you now have visibility across all the assets. So you're not just the hardware side, but you also have a seamless visibility across into your the software assets. You can search and locate information quickly. If you're in a bid process and you need that information, your potential customer has a question, you can immediately be able to provide that answer. You can accurately link the firmware with the hardware. If some organizations are using, dare I say, Excel and manually entering which version of a firmware is associated with which hardware component, and errors can occur, and they can have quite deep consequences. They could even have fatalities, and this can these are quite tragic and also have tremendous impact on the business. So these are really crucial and important issues to bear in mind of why we need to move our game and have good tools and integration between the tools. We want to be able to trace assets across the life cycle, reduce time wasted, enable collaboration if, for example, you've got globally distributed units. And as I mentioned, the MRO, if you've got an aircraft, it's grounded because of a failure in some far-flung airport. You have to send your engineers. In the old days, they would crate over to that place a library of all the documentation and blueprints and so on for the engineers to access. Now they just need a tablet, they plug it in, satellite, whatever, and they're able to locate and identify components. And this is why, with more software in products, you need to have that integration so that those engineers can just as easily be able to solve software problems as they do hardware problems. For example, for that aircraft on the ground, it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars for every day that it's grounded. So this is a very important part of being able to that MRO aspect. Some manufacturers, like aircraft engines, have 30-year life cycles. They actually earn more on the service part than they do in the capital sales. So MRO increasingly recognized as being important. So ALM PLM integration, the touch points, itemize their requirements, testing, change management, and release management. And there's two types of integration, fundamentally. There's live links, so you don't transfer the data, you just connect the different data with a live link, or you synchronize, so you have data exchange. Live linking is challenging if you've got a supply chain that's very deep, you've got 10 suppliers, and you're talking about a product, an aircraft that's out there for 30 years, having that live link is a challenge. So that's an example where data exchange synchronization is better. Live linking is cheaper. It's certainly cheaper to manage because it's somebody else's who owns the source. It's their responsibility to manage it, so there's less cost for yourself. But you do need good processes, and if you've got that sort of time scale and you've got to deal and answer those issues. So options for integration, well, direct connectors, often that is a burden on the user to build a direct point-to-point connection. So standards come in, and OSLC, RECIF, and SysML. SysML for models owned by the OMG. I'll talk about OSLC and RECIF next. So OSLC, Open Services for Lifecycle Collaboration. There's quite a lot of pros, a lot of strengths there, and those strengths will continue. If you like, it's based on the W3C linked data standard, which is sort of REST-based connectivity. It's how the web works. Lots of advantages around that, But as I said, there are some weaknesses. But I would say that OSLC is evolving, and those, it's one to watch and one for all the participants in the industry to move that standard forward. RECIF requirements interchange format, so that arose from the automobile industry, and that's very much about data exchange, very widely used today, and as you can see, good strong points for why it's there. It also has some weaknesses, and again, this is something where I'll let you read this when you download it in detail, but I want to move on to the future, which is very much about, I think, that data exchange and data linking combined is really what is the ideal. And so an approach that combines both those standards, I think, is really going to be extremely good for the end user. It'll reduce their costs and it'll meet their different requirements for different types of scenarios where linked data is advantageous or data exchange, synchronizing data is advantageous. So great opportunity for ALM in the PLM world. Some of the issues that you need to grapple with is who exactly owns that decision making. Is it the IT department in your organization? Is it the engineers on the ground who are actually using these tools, or is it senior management at the business board level who make those decisions? And I would argue that given the importance of software today in products, it really that investment needs to come from the top, from senior management, in order to open the way for the IT department or the engineers who actually will then own the tools to have the best tools for the job. A lot of businesses, as I mentioned, are still using ad hoc tools, and this is why ALM needs to be seen as a business priority rather than just making do with what's the cheapest option out there. So I think we do recognize that there's a growing awareness within the manufacturing industry that software needs to be properly managed. We expect that maturity to grow. So the trends, it's very much the value today increasingly growing as being the software. Software it's much more it's easier to change, and more changes happen with it when you're doing development. You can have from the step from design to manufacturing, you can have something like 150 changes taking place quite easily, and you need to manage those changes. You need to keep track of which firmware is associated with which component. If you have to recall products, that's a huge expense. So you need to reduce the expense of having to do recalls and changes, and especially with software, you want to maintain very high QA, and this is why you need that maturity and why the integration help to produce better products and reduce and improve your QA. And so this is really what it's about. It's managing the complexity and ensuring high quality. So to wrap up on my part, the future for ALM and PLM, the terminology, I think you'll see different vendors use different terminology, but as long as we understand what we're talking about, which is managing the software development lifecycle, that's the key thing. We see it as being essential. We don't think that the industry has a choice here, because they either will manage the complexity or be drowned by it. And that complexity is a new experience for many in the product world. So we're seeing that realization. I think that ALM is a decision for senior management, because it is about investing in something that's becoming increasingly critical for the business. And we see the PLM vendors are moving toward ALM in different ways. So this is very interesting and active space. And just to sum up, PLM integration is necessary, and standards can help. So this is a one to watch. So thank you very much. I've put my email address there. Please ask Q&A in this session or follow up. I'm also writing a report, ALM PLM integration, so if you want to hear more about it, do contact me. And thank you very much, and I'll pass to Stefano.
I would encourage everybody starting using the Q&A panel. Q&A is open. At the end of my part, we will have a space for some questions and answers from me. I will answer, and also Michael will answer. So Thank you for joining today. In my part, I will briefly introduce you to the status of our research in terms of ALM and PLM convergence. For some of you, this is not the first time that you will listen about PALM. PALM is the way in which at Polarion Software we identify this project, the project of PLM and ALM getting together. In this presentation, I will summarize briefly the status of this research. And actually, we are in the second phase. We already published a couple of white papers that I encourage you to download from our website, www.polarion.com. These white papers, we discuss the need of ALM and PLM getting together, and we envision the PALM way to get them together. Today, what I would show to you, what I would talk about is a little bit more about the use cases of the convergence. What should PLM users and ALM users expect from the convergence, and also kind of a roadmap for the future levels of the integration. So I will discuss a bit the context and then the scenarios in which the convergence happens. There is then a topology of levels of the need and the approach that we recommend and what Polarion is going to do. So the context of the convergence is system engineering, as described as product development plus software development. So everything I'm saying is regarding those companies that need to build the software together with products or products that embed software. As described by Michael Azoff before, there is a big trend in this direction. Actually, the context of the convergence means two main things for us. One is data assets, and the other is lifecycle. So when product development and software development getting together, we need to take care of the convergence of data, or the what Michael just described as the linking of data exchange, replica of data. And another topic is about the lifecycle convergence. So how can product development go hand in hand with software development and vice versa? Just focusing a bit on data assets. Data assets can be, of course, very different, but in this context, we normally talk about software and statements. Software, data assets related to software are source code, are source models, those kind of models that are immediately converted into code. And we have object code and set of parameters. Especially in embedded software development, all this kind of assets need to be managed somehow. Most of times, they need to be managed not as islands, but need to be managed together with the components, the hardware components, the product parts. The other big piece of data assets that we have is related to statements. Statements is a kind of a very generic definition of any requirement or test case or any, let's say, kind of information which is not directly related to software, which is not software that we manage in ALM and PLM. So it's the case of requirements, test cases, but also unformatted specifications. Most of the times, these statements are expressed in terms of natural language, but can be also sketched in designs as mock-ups or architectural sketches and so on. When talking about the life cycle, we identify the fact that we have different life cycles in ALM and PLM. ALM life cycle are traditionally more covering the engineering phases of development. I mean, in ALM, we have pretty long experience in making people collaborate, in envisioning a solution, in creating a solution. There is also, yes, some experience in what happens next in managing the product during service, but we have a lot of experience more in the engineering phase. PLM system cover the whole life cycle from product inception down to its disposal, and there is, of course, a very strong experience in managing the part of the life cycle which is related to production, which is related to delivery of the product, which is related to servicing the product when it's out in the field. In PALM, we envision the possibility of having a subset of the processes that are common both to ALM and PLM disciplines that are needed both in software development and in product development. PALM lifecycle, the PALM tools will support the process management, so the ability to orchestrate both software and product development, the collaboration between engineers, not just software engineers and product engineers, but all engineers should collaborate together. Requirements and traceability management in a single place, so both product and software requirements managed by the PALM, and quality assurance items. So all the processes related to testing, to ensuring the quality of a product, risk management, safety, and so on. So this is the context of the convergence, as I said, is related to data assets and life cycle. We face with our customers, we meet different scenarios. When talking with our customers, we recognize that we have different cases. There are big traditional enterprises, product enterprises in car manufacturing, for example, in the aerospace. In these kind of companies, product development drives. I mean, their core competence is in making cars, is in making airplanes, and there is a long tradition in product engineering and product development. These kind of companies normally define product requirements, define product specification, and push software requirements, push software specification into a software department that is traditionally was sometimes outsourced. It was an external provider, and more and more today is inside the company, is a part of the company. As more as software becomes more and more important in this kind of companies, the more these companies develop the software internally. But in terms of how to manage the process, how to manage the product and software development together, we have the product drives, product specification drives. Software drives is another kind of company that we think these days is the company that has a tradition in developing software, and that from time to time, and that normally need also to develop some equipment, some products to support their software development. So just imagine companies are building access systems or ticketing solutions. They are mainly around software, mainly around developing a software solution, but they need also devices. So in this case, the specification is inside. We define the specification at software level, and then we push requirements for devices to some most probably external device builder. So this is the other scenario in which the convergence happens. A third scenario that we envision for the future is a place where PALM drives. I mean, we don't have the product philosophy, the product tradition that is leading. We don't have the software tradition that is leading, but we have one single place in which we envision a solution, we define a solution, we describe and give specification of a solution that includes both software and hardware, both software and devices at the same time. And in this place, the engineers collaborate in envisioning the solution, and then individual requirements for software and for product, individual specifications for software and devices are pushed into the different special environments that are devoted in software and product development. So these are the three scenarios that we see today. We also think that there are different levels of need. This taxonomy is something that we partially meet already in the market when coming to trying to describe which are the integration needs, the convergence needs between ALM and PLM. We see that at level 1, the first level that also Michael described just before, is about linking. So there is the need to connect items that stay in the PLM solution to items that are in the ALM. Connect the code to the device that runs it, actually. So at level 1, the first level is to connect items and trace these links, of course, being able to navigate these links. At the second level, once level 1 is solved, immediately after, and it's already a need which is urgent in the market, is the ability to drive the change and propagate the change. Is the ability to, once a requirement changes, be able to find out which are the software components that I need to change, find out which are the hardware components that I need to change. But on the other way around, there are also needs like there is a software failure somewhere, and I need to find out backwards which are the components that are impacted, so which are the parts of the system that are impacted. So on top of links, we need to be able to assess the impact both of a change in the requirements and also assess the backwards impact of a failure, which are the parts of the system that will not work. So these two levels already, level of need, are pretty hot in the market. There is a third level that actually is not so, that companies don't feel so pressing today, but we are pretty sure that once the ability to link and the ability to manage the change will be available, there will be the need also to manage a common process, the ability to exchange items between software developers and product developers that are like task assignments, ability to communicate. So once we have, for example, that a requirement is changed, what we will need will be not just to propagate the change, but also to assign tasks, for example, to software developers or to product engineers to make the changes in order to make the change happen. So on top of the links and the change propagation, we will need to have a common workflow, a common ability of people of communicating and collaborating. At the top level, the fourth level, which is pretty far, and it's actually the essence of PALM. At the fourth level, once we will have all the information consistently linked and traced, the ability to manage the change and the ability to work together, we will need to collaborate, to have, we envision a time in which all the engineers, both software and product engineers, will live together in a kind of a scrum team, one single team, all together collaborating, all together defining the tasks, defining what to do, and sharing the knowledge, and also a level of reporting in which we will see in a consistent place the velocity in which we develop software and product together. We will keep track of all the products that we have in our portfolio, and we will be able to see the actual status, the live status of software and product all together. Now, just a few words about the approach. This is The approach that we think that need to be taken, and it's actually what we are doing at Polarium Software today in helping our customers in managing this ALM and PLM convergence. So we have three different scenarios: product drives, software drives, and the PALM drives scenario. And we have a different level of needs. For each scenario and for each level of need, we are defining the use cases. So, for example, for the scenario in which the product drives, for the companies where the product drives, automotive company, for example, at level 1, so the limited trace needs, what is the data that we need to link, which is the data that need to be traced. And so we are defining these use cases. Then we define the level 2 use cases, and we will follow these levels in providing solutions to our customers. So we are already serving our customers, helping our customers on top of our open API, our open architecture, in linking and tracing the information which are stored in different PLM systems, in also different PLM tools like MathWorks tools, for example, and many other different tools. So we are already doing that, and we are helping them in driving the change. So we are also addressing level 2. And we are envisioning also level 3 needs and use cases, and we are starting working in defining and creating solutions for that. That's what we are doing in Polarium. The reason why we are doing that is because a pretty large majority of our customers are in the mechatronics industry. We are more and more requested, as Michael envisioned in his presentation, ALM and PLM is an urgent need. Their convergence is an urgent need. It's not just because we need to store the code in a PLM system, but it's more and more the need of having people collaborating, having people creating together a solution and sharing their knowledge towards better and better solutions. That's all for my part today. What's next? You can follow me on Twitter. I would recommend you to go on www.polarium.com to get an idea of our technology, especially to download PALM white papers. Soon, some other content related to PLM and ALM convergence will be available, especially some content that describes in more details what I introduced quickly today.
Okay, that's great, Stefano. We have some questions that have been submitted. The first question that was asked was with regards to what is the PLM vendor community doing about ALM PLM integration?
Certainly the PLM community, I think the leading PLM vendors, Dassault, PDC, Siemens, they are certainly recognizing the need to integrate their tools with ALM. They are pretty much across the board supporting RECIF. The automobile industry pretty much mandates that standard. Increasingly, that standard is also being adopted, for example, in the medical electronic instrument industry. OSLC is very much one to watch. Quite a bit of momentum, but we're still waiting to see the PLM vendors actually natively provide OSLC connectivity, so that's one to watch. The industry is aware that the costs are being borne by end users and end users, especially in economic climate, reducing costs. It will certainly help the industry. So I think there is a momentum to improve the adoption of standards, which then enable the lowering of costs to connect ALM with PLM. So it's very much an active space at the moment.
As I said in my presentation, we are very active in this field, and we are more and more serving more and more customers, helping them in this convergence. So my viewpoint on that is that there are not so many other companies so actively working in this space, but this is my personal viewpoint. I found this interesting question. Maybe you should answer to that, Michael. When talking about ALM and PLM, do you see in future the possibility of having one single tool set that manages both ALM and PLM. So having the convergence becoming one single platform.
Interesting question. Well, PDC, for one, PLM vendor made that decision by acquiring MKS. I think that, so that's one sort of bit of the industry making a decision. I don't think, the PLM world is very distinct. Do they want to acquire, is there going to be more acquisitions by PLM vendors of ALM players? Who knows? You haven't seen any, apart from PDC, you haven't seen any other vendors in the PLM side making those sort of moves. In the meantime, you have ALM vendors like Polarion making good inroads into that PLM world. I think part of the issue is to do that ALM and PLM are quite distinct areas of expertise. I think it makes sense, certainly at this moment in time, for those organizations that they're expert in their areas to work within their range of experience and integrate with tools from the other companies that have the expertise in their fields. So I think that there is software development is so distinct and different in the way that you manage a project from the way you build the hardware side. At this moment in time, I don't see a wholesale change in the PLM world towards those vendors for making acquisitions of ALM vendors and all of them providing everything out of one box. You've got the whole world of software development and all the exciting things happening, all the changes, and you need vendors in the ALM world who are up to date with those changes, the latest and greatest in software. For a PLM vendor to do that, I think it's a big ask. So I would say at this moment in time, it does make sense for the industry to integrate rather than try and do everything.
Another question, pretty interesting. Polarion Software, you are an ALM company. In your background, in your DNA, there is software development. Why did you move into this space? Why is PLM interesting for you? We started with software development quite 10 years ago. We enlarged our reach to different ALM disciplines, especially requirements management, traceability management, quality assurance. And we soon realized that more than 50% of our customers were in the product development space. We're using Polarion not just to develop software, but some of them using Polarion for product requirements and for system requirements, managing the testing and quality assurance, not just for code, but for all products. And these customers becoming more and more present in our community drove us in investing in this area. And today we find that this helps a lot our strategy. And we have customers using Polarion for embedded software development, for example, in the context of products. At the same time, managing specification and safety regulations, for example, in different verticals, medical devices, car manufacturing, aerospace, defense. So that's why we moved into this space. Now 2+ years that we are investing here. We have more and more progress every day. So I think that we are done with the Q&A as well. I wish to thank you, everybody for attending today. I want to thank you, Michael, for the inspiring time. I hope that our attendees and our customers and friends will appreciate that. And we are open to offline questions, of course. And thank you again. Good afternoon and good evening.
Thank you. That concludes our Q&A in today's webinar. I want to remind everyone that we'll be sending out a survey following the webinar, and to subscribe to the Polarion blog and find the latest on Polarion's new release for 2014. We also have a full series of our on-demand webinars that you can be at www.polarian.com. So to reiterate what Stefano said, on behalf of Polarian Software, we want to thank our speakers today, both Michael and Stefano, and thank all of you for sharing your time with us. Goodbye.